Okay, this is test 2, so I'm gonna make this a little bit more quicker. Oh, I asked out of my notes too. So I finished out Found. Um, and this is test 2 because the volume messed up on me. So anyways, yeah, I finished Found by PC Cast. It's taken me a little bit longer because I haven't been in a reading mood. So forgive me for that. I've S'd out of my notes. I had it ready on the first take. This time I did not. Okay. Okay. So, I am sort of rooting for Neferet to kill the Dark Sisters, which he hasn't yet. So, the Dark Sisters is basically a group of college kids in Zoe's world who worships Neferet. They go to her tomb and they worship her. They call themselves the Dark Sisters, and they were just annoying. They were basically rich, snobby girls, and they were just annoying. I liked that they said they were still squeamish with blood, even though she was craving it, or they were craving it. Zoe was like that, and so was Casey. So Zoe, fledglings weren't supposed to crave blood until later, but Zoe was powerful, and so she craved it sooner. Excuse me. So it's kind of just nice to see for once in media about vampires that they're not just automatically treating blood like water. It was just kind of nice to see. And Casey, she felt it sooner because she had died and then, or rejected the change, but then came back fully marked as a red vampire. So she felt the change too. I'm still surprised that other Neferet isn't truly as evil. She actually likes Lynette and offered to kill Vanessa and the others for her. So Vanessa was like the leader of the Dark Sisters. Other Neferet surprised me throughout the entire book. Kind of. Which I'll get more onto that later. So, moving on. Other Neferet was talking to other Kevin about how she doesn't feel missing people in the other world or sadness. Other Kevin said that's not what it's like for the people left behind. She told him to move on anyways because it might make it easier and to love again and feel happiness. Just kind of made me sad to think about. They had a line about other Stark getting a dog, and he was like, "What? No, that's weird. If a cat chooses me, then great. But I've never heard of a dog at the House of Night." Which is funny because if you've read the original House of Night series, Stark came with the dog, came to the Tulsa House of Night with the dog. And she's not really mentioned in the Otherworld series, but it's assumed that they still have her alongside with the cats living at House of Night. So I just thought it was funny that they put that in there. I put Aphrodite's speech. So this is the only page number that I had written down. Oh, I almost went straight to it. So they get to see other Aphrodite again. Other Stark, and other Kevin. And that's how they get to the other world. They get to the other world by going through the other world. The irony. Anyways, so they see other Aphrodite, and she is talking about other Stark's feelings towards Zoe. So he found out that Zoe and his counterpart Stark, our Stark, are like together, and the Zoe in his world had died, so it just kind of messed up his head a little bit, even though they were never together. It was just like the what ifs, I guess. So she says, I can see what's wrong with you, and because I know you can't, I'm going to tell you about it once. What you do with it afterward is up to you. He says, okay, what? You'll never be happy if you can't accept your feelings, and that means the good ones alongside with the bad. You are seriously the poster boy for toxic young male bullshit. And I say that with love because you can change it. Here's the truth. It is not good for men to deny their feelings. Crying isn't weakness, it's healing. Asking for help doesn't make you a pussy, it makes you mature. Until you deal with all that negativity inside of you, all that anger and regret and jealousy, you're gonna be like this. A guy who has potential, but it's kinda douchey. It's your choice, you need to fix yourself. No one can do that for you. And giant newsflash, it's no woman's responsibility to make you a better man. Do that on your own, period, the end. Which I like. So what I like about this series is they don't fuck around with toxic masculinity. Other Lynette found out that Neferet murdered her mirror half. I was wondering when she would find out, and I wondered if she'll bring it up to other Neferet. And I mentioned that later, so I won't really go into it now. But I was wondering how they would all react, because I knew it would come up eventually. So Z was talking about missing her old dorm room, and Stark made a show of looking around their giant apartment-like place in the House of Night. So basically they have professor quarters, and it's kind of like a small apartment. It has a kitchenette, it has a bathroom, and it has a bedroom. And kind of a living room center. And so it sometimes just made me think of missing my dorm room, even though I share a house now. And it's if I had the choice to live in a dorm room and a house, I'd obviously choose the house. But it just kind of made me think of it. Other Neferet found out about Lynette and actually felt sick about it. Even offered to imprint with other Lynette. So yeah, they do imprint, which is just weird for Neferet, any world, to think about. But she did. It was weird. It was weird to read. I bet other Neferet and other Lynette won't make it back home because they kept talking about home. It was kind of like one of those movies where you know somebody is gonna die, and excuse me, and it was just something, because they just kept talking about going back home, and so I knew what they were gonna deal with, but they didn't. So it's just kind of one of them is probably not gonna make it back home, if not both. They broke the tomb open. They let Neferet out of the tomb. Fucking idiots. And which leads me to Neferet is back and crazier than ever. She keeps referring to herself as we, anytime she talks. It's just we this, we that. And she's described as inhuman like I think they mentioned insect. Her spine was like an insect's. And I don't know if they'll include that in the TV show, but I kind of hope that they do. But since this is the other world, they probably might not. But it'd be kind of interesting to see that, because I was having a hard time picturing it. Aphrodite had a vision that other Neferet was fighting alongside with them against Batshit Neferet. That's what they called our Neferet, Batshit, and the name really stuck toward everyone. Zoe was thinking about how weird that is that she would be fighting on their side after being willing to murder anyone and everyone. And this isn't mentioned, but yet Kelowna was a terrible person before too, and he was on their side in the end. And I didn't find it hypocritical or anything, because I was thinking the same about Neferet. But it was Kelowna literally raped women and had children with them, and created terrible creatures except for Reframe. but he used to be one of those terrible creatures. So I don't know. It was just kind of like the irony. Denise is a sprite now. So I don't remember if it was actually mentioned in the last book, if she was a sprite or not. I may have just not been paying attention, but I found that out in this book, that she's a sprite. I thought when, I thought when she died, she would just die, but I was kind of glad that she turned into a sprite. They're fixing to raise other Kelowna. I'm sure it'll work better than last time because it's near the end of the book, but also because he never fell. So it was like within, I think, the last 50 to 100 pages, within the last couple of chapters. And it was time to raise other Kelowna. And I knew it would work out better because, like I said, he never fell. And he was still a person who fought against darkness. And that's what Batshit Nephret was. But they kept bringing up the last time they raised Kelowna, our Kelowna. Zoe kept thinking back to that night and all like the horrible events. So it just kind of like made us think something bad was gonna happen. But it worked out. He got to see Nitz again. What I was kind of sad about is the relationship between his brother and his partner wasn't mentioned, but oh well. Other Nephret let Nitz back in, which I was surprised that she let goodness back in again, or light. She didn't turn and do what Batshit Nephret did, and go fully into darkness. So that was nice. And then of course she died. Killed by Batshit Nephret. However, she was given a second chance by Aphrodite, only to come back as a 16-year-old Emily again, and kind of without some memories. Like, she knew, familiar feelings, because she told Lynette that she couldn't remember who she was, but she felt like she knew her, and then she knew her old cat. So it was like she had, like, familiarity about him, but yeah. And then Reframe got freed from his punishment by other Nits. This is other Nits, by the way. So he does not have to turn into a raven anymore. And he was also given a mark. So that was nice. And then Nits turned Lynette into a vampire, so that way she could make sure that Emily is set on the right path this time. So I thought that was cool. She's probably one of like the older vampires too, because she's like middle-aged. And then something I didn't mention, in the epilogue, Heath comes back, other Heath. And so I thought that was kind of sad. But they got their closure, so that was good. And then there's one funny thing that I forgot to mention, but God dang it, the soldiers that were fighting against the good side, Nitz turned them all into children again, like little 5-year-old boys, and so they have to redo everything. So in the end, they were like, "What do we do with these children?" And who was it? Anastasia, who is alive in the other world, or in this world, that world. She was like, "Are you," talking to Zoe, she was like, "Are you quite sure you can't take some of these kids?" But it was funny. It was just funny, the thought of these soldiers turning into 5-year-old children again. But yeah, that was found by can't see it. That was found by PC Cast. I'm hoping there's more. There may or may not be. It just kind of depends on the fans, I guess. But they're working on the TV series now, so I'm excited for that. I'm hoping I can watch that. It's like on a channel that I can watch, or like on Netflix or Hulu or something. Which, if it's on Hulu, I might actually keep my Hulu for that. The next, I'm going to read The Night Stalker by Robert Brinsta. This is also a Detective Erica Foster novel. So this is pretty much the sequel to Girl on the Ice. So I'm excited to read it. I'm hoping it won't take me a month to read it like it took me Found. But maybe if I'm in a more of a reading mood. So let me know if you've read Found and what you thought of it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And follow Etsy's Life.